Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's lecture. So, till yesterday's lecture, we saw clause 5, 6, 7, 8 of second schedule of part 1. So, today we are gonna see the rest of the clauses for the second schedule, the rest of the parts, and the Council General guidelines. And then we will move to the chapter of company audit, where I will be dealing with some sections of the company act with respect to the company audit. Now, guys, I would like to ask you, like, if you have any doubt from past lectures or from previous lectures, please feel free to ask. I will be there to reply to those questions. Yep. So let me start for the today's lecture then. Yeah. So till last lecture, what we did is just a quick recap. Till last lecture, what we did is we discussed about various clauses of second schedule part 1, and in last we discussed clause 5, where we were talking about fail to disclose a material fact. Clause 6, fail to report a material misstatement. Clause 7, where we chartered accountant or member in practice has not exercised due diligence or was not grossly negligent of his professional duties. Clause 8, fails to obtain sufficient information or that member in practice has taken exceptions which are material in nature, which were negating the expression of opinion. So these were certain things that we discussed in the last lecture. Okay, now moving ahead with the today's clause. So today we are going to discuss now clause 9. Clause 9 talks about where a member in practice, okay, clause 9 talks about where a member in practice fails to invite attention on any of the material departure. Now, material departure from what? From generally accepted audit procedures of audit. Okay, so when I say clause 9, okay, so when I say clause 9 talks about member in practice fails to invite attention from material departure. Now we are talking about material departure, okay, over here. And when I say material, again, you need to consider the materiality concept which is there. So insignificant or negligible things or such things are not required to be considered here unless and until there is a material departure. Okay, and material departure from what? From generally accepted procedures of audit. Generally accepted procedures of audit. Okay, if a member in practice fails to invite this, then he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Sorry, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Now, what can be the example of this particular clause? Like, what can be the example of this particular scenario where a member in practice fails to invite? So, for example, let's say inventory. Now, we all know there are specific requirements, specific considerations in certain of the cases where member in practice while doing the audit are required to consider some special procedures for special items. In case, let's say for example, in case of inventory, for existence, physical verification is required. Now, physical verification is required to be conducted by management, but we need to ensure that physical verification has been conducted by management and has been conducted appropriately and at a periodic instance. That is also part of the CARO, but again, sticking to this scenario, let's say for inventory, okay, physical verification is required. Or another example, for accounts receivable, confirmation, third-party confirmations are required to validate the existence and the accuracy of account receivable. Okay, to validate the existence and accuracy assertions of account receivable. Now, what if the member in practice who is performing the audit does not perform this particular task, or this does not perform this particular audit procedure? Then what? Same way in bank confirmation. Okay, in bank confirmation, if member in practice does not perform bank confirmations procedure, then what? So in that case, he need to disclose, okay, there was a deviation or a material departure from the generally accepted procedures of audit. He needs to bring to the attention that, okay, there was a material departure. Now, if he does not follow any of the audit procedure, that doesn't mean that he's, you can say, liable under clause 9. He will be liable under clause 9 when he fails to report this. Fails to report this departure. When he fails to report this departure, then he will be held guilty under clause 9. I hope it is clear. Any doubts till now? Any doubts? No? Okay. Yeah. So there are, guys, there are some also additional provisions, let's say, for example, SEBI. So SEBI came up with a provision where, statutory audit of a listed company will only be done by auditors who are subject to themselves as a peer review. So these are certain, again, when there is an audit, UDIN is mandatory, is required to be generated mandatory. So there are additional checks and additional things are present where, these informations, like the quality is ensured, okay, the quality is maintained. Okay, then it was pretty simple, this particular clause. Now we'll move to the next clause. Okay, what is the next clause for today? Clause number 10. Now, clause number 10 talks about when a member in practice, okay, clause number 10 talks about when a member in practice fails to keep money of his client, fails to keep his money of his clients other than the fees or remuneration, or money meant to be expended in a separate banking account, or to use such money for the purpose which they intended with a reasonable time. So if he fails to keep his money of his client in separate bank account, or for which it was given, if he uses for some other purpose, then he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. He will be held guilty of professional misconduct. So let me write down. Okay. So if a chartered accountant or if a member in practice fails to keep money, of his client, in other than the fees or remuneration, in a separate bank account, or to use that particular money, for the purpose for which they were provided. For the purpose for which they were provided. Okay. What I'll do is I'll take up this particular portion. So either fails to keep money or fails to use money for the purpose for which they were provided or for which they were intended. Okay. So if a member in practice is not able to perform this particular task, then he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Now, there are certain exceptions given in the current case. They are like if like the money is for the fees or remuneration. So if a client is giving me my fees or remuneration, then I'm not required to keep in separate bank account. Why will I keep in separate bank account? So exceptions for this particular scenario are fees and remuneration. So if I receive my fees or remuneration, then I'm not required to keep in a separate bank account. That is for me. Another thing is that we need to take care for is when I say for the purpose for which they were provided, like fail to use the money. Now there are certain things that are required to be taken care is like within reasonable time frame. So if something, let's say for example, if today clients gives me with an example, I'll tell you. For example, if Mr. A, who is my client, Mr. A, who is my client, he has provided me rupees, let's say 15 lakhs. Okay. Now he has provided me rupees 15 lakhs for payment of GST. Okay. Now he asked me, okay, you do the payment of GST. I'm going out somewhere on my behalf. Please pay the amount. As I will be traveling, I will not be able to do the payment. I said, fine. Now the due date was let's say 31st March. Hypothetical example. Okay. 31st March is the due date. Now, if I do not pay till this date, then I will be held guilty. Otherwise, like for example, if it is 30th March, still I have a time to pay because it's within the time. So till this time it is fine. Otherwise, it will exceed the time limit. Now, how to define this time limit? Because these time limit will be different in case to case basis. Okay, these time limit will be different from case to case basis, and hence we use the word within reasonable time period. Okay. In our current example, 31st March was the due date and I need to pay within due date. If I do not pay within due date, then I am held guilty for professional misconduct. Now, these due date changes from time to time and case to case. It will be some different due date in some different case. And hence, for this purpose, we use the word within reasonable time period. Okay, so I need to use the money within reasonable time period for which it was provided to me. Any doubt till now, guys? Okay. Thank you, Srinidhi. Okay, so now you must be wondering, like for example, if we have received an advance from our client, then what? So advance received by member in practice, okay, against let's say the services we are going to provide, does not fall under this purview. It will be again part of my exception. So fees, remuneration, or any advance for fees will be part of my exception. Okay, so you may be asked, like, what if we are getting money, let's say for in some other capacity? Sometimes we receive a money in the capacity as a trustee, as a liquidator. In that case, what we need to do is the money should be put in a separate bank account immediately. Okay, the money is required to be put in a separate bank account immediately. So this was my clause 10, where a member in practice fails to keep money of his client in a separate bank account or fails to use money for the purpose for which they were provided within a reasonable time frame. Okay, any doubt, guys? Any doubt? Guys, the more you will ask, the more it will bring the clarity, the topic clarity to you. And also I'll suggest, please provide your feedback so that we can understand, okay, what are the things that you are liking and what are the things where we need an improvement for you, what are the things that you need additional. So please provide the feedback. Okay, so this was my part 1 till now that we discussed, the 10 clauses of part 1. Now I will be shifting to the next part, that is part 2, where it is like professional misconduct in relation to members of institute generally. Okay, so part 2 talks about misconduct members in generally. Till now we were talking about, okay, where members in practice were there, like it will be applicable to the member in practice, but now it will be applicable to all members generally. Okay, pretty easy. The first clause, clause 1. What clause 1 talks about? Clause 1 talks about if member in general. Now I will be talking about member in general. If member in general contravenes, if member in general contravenes any of the below, if member in general contravenes any of the below, then he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. When I say below, what are these? Provisions of act, or you can say regulations, or you can say guidelines, so if member in general contravenes provision of act, any regulation, guidelines issued by council and ICI, then he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Okay, now you must be wondering, I just provide you summary which guidelines we are talking about over here. So for example, till now what we discussed, or we are going to discuss in some of the cases, let's say for example regulation 43 is there. Regulation 43 talks about engagement of article assistant. Okay, then regulation 46, registration of article assistant. Then regulation 47, regulation 47 talks about premium from article assistant. Then regulation 48, stipend to article assistant. There are various regulations, like for I am just making a comprehensive list, like regulation 56, termination or assignment of articles. Then 65, Article assistance. Not to engage. Okay, not to engage in any other occupation. So there's a whole regulation on this. Not to engage in any other occupation. Then regulation 67 that talks about complaint against employer. Then regulation 68 to 80 is there, which again 68 to 80, which again talks about my audit assistance. There are various regulation on this. Then you can say just now we discussed 190 register of offices. Then we discussed 190A. Remember, chartered accountant not to engage in any other business. Then it was 191 part-time employment. On 192 is restriction on fees. Okay, so these were certain regulations. Out of them, some of already we saw. This we saw, this we saw, this we saw, this we saw, and some are generally applicable. And I'll suggest you to read in thoroughly because it will enhance your knowledge. Okay. So if a member generally member of institute contravenes any of the below, like provision of act, the regulation, some of which I have already mentioned, guidelines issued by council from time to time, then he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Pretty simple. Nothing difficult in this. Any doubt, guys? Any doubt? Jay, what I will suggest is there are two things. If you see SA 501, it talks about special considerations for special cases in case of audit. Okay. Now SA 501 talks about special considerations. On the same head, like there are certain procedures that a member in practice while doing an audit he is required to follow. If you read SA 501, what it says that, okay, SA 501 talks about attendance of physical counting. Attendance says physical counting. Now physical counting is something we say it's a responsibility of management, but attending there, that count can be there by a charter like by the auditor can attend the count. Okay, so there are two things. One, who will perform the count. Second, by attending at the physical count, who will perform the audit procedure. I hope I am clear. Any further doubt, guys? Okay, Srinidhi, let's say for example, if the money is required to be spent within short period of time, Okay, if the money is required to be spent within short period of time, in that particular case, it is not required to be kept in a separate bank account. Okay, rather than like within that reasonably short time, you need to use this. So money received for expenses to be incurred. Let's say, for example, you can say, some of the statutory payments, some statutory fees, something like that. Okay, within reasonably short time, then they are not required to be put in a separate bank account. So now the emphasis will be here will be on reasonably short time. I hope I am clear. Any doubt, guys? Any doubt? Okay, good. Then let me move forward to the next clause. Okay, so the next clause for today is, now this somewhere we already have shown, is like being an employee of the company. Okay, being an employee of the company discloses confidential information. Now, if I disclose any confidential information being an employee of the company, okay, which I acquired during the course of business, which I might acquired during the course of business, then I will be held guilty of professional misconduct, unless and until it is required by law to be disclosed. So let me write down. We have already seen this particular clause for the member in practice. On the same line, it is for members, like in employment or in general. Like, for example, members being an employee of company. So employees of company, member being an employee of company, if they discloses confidential information, if they disclose confidential information which was acquired during the course of employment. Now this was acquired during the course of employment. Okay, now which was acquired during the course of his employment, or like which was he obtained as a part of his job. Okay, so if he discloses any confidential information, then he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Now, what is the exception to this particular case? Exception is that unless it was required by law, either unless it was required by law. So I am saying that unless that particular disclosure either was required by law, or unless it was permitted by the employer. So either it was required by law, or either it was permitted by the employer. In both of the cases, it will be fine. Otherwise, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Pretty simple. Any doubt? Any doubt, guys? No? Okay, then okay, the next clause. I'll be taking up the questions together. Clause 3. Clause 3. Now, what clause 3 talks about? Clause 3 says that when a member generally, okay, provides any information or submits any information to the institute, council, or its committees, director discipline, board of discipline, quality review board, any particulars, any information which is which he knows that is false information, then he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. So provides information knowing to be false. Provides information knowing to be false to whom? To, as of now, I'll write authorities of institute. And who are these authorities of institutes? Relevant authorities of institute, I can say. So, institute, then council, then committees of institute, then director discipline, then board of discipline, okay, then disciplinary committee, then you can say quality review board, then you can say any other apparent authority of institute, appellate authority. If to any of them, if a member generally provides the information knowing that information to be false, then he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. If you are providing false information, then you are guilty. Clear? Any doubt, guys? Example, I'll give you one example for this. Let's say, for example, Mr. A was there. Institute or the council or the in case of some dispute with the article assistant, institute asked him the date of relieving, or you can say the date of last working day, or relieving of that particular article assistant. So date of last working, okay, from Mr. A, member in practice. Now this date was asked from him. Okay, what is the date of last working of, let's say, Mr. Z? Instead of actual date, actual was 1/4, let's say 2020. Instead of actual date, member provided false date, which was 1/10/2020, or vice like some other date, whatever. It was false date. Instead of actual, he provided the false date. Now it was held that Mr. A provided false information to the institute, knowing it to be false. He knew this information is false because this date was available, Mr. A, in his records, and that's why he was held guilty. Held guilty of professional misconduct. Clear? Okay. Then any doubt? Jay, that is already we have covered where a member in practice discloses the information of a client. That is already covered in our previous clause, if you see. So if you see the clause 1 of part 1 of second schedule, okay, it talks about that failed discloses information acquired during professional engagement to other person who is not a client, okay, without the consent of client or without the requirement of law, then he will be held guilty of professional misconduct that we discussed in clause 1, part 1. So that is taken care over there. This is for general member in general, or this is for where member is an employee of a company. I hope I'm clear. Okay. Okay, so let me move to the next clause for today. Clause number 4. Okay, clause 4. What clause 4 talks about? Very important clause. If a member generally, okay, embezzles money received in his professional capacity, okay, embezzles money in his professional capacity, then he will be held guilty. So, sorry. Okay. Or embezzles money. Money received. Okay. Now, why he received the money in his. So, if I receive that money in my professional capacity, okay. So, for example, client gave me some money in my professional capacity. I embezzle that money. Okay. I do not provide that money back. I take away that money, particular money. Then what? I will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Okay. So if some amount is given to me, let's say for example, let's say 2 lakh rupees was provided to me in my professional capacity, let's say for the payment of GST, and I steal that I steal that money. Okay. I embezzle that money. I take away that money and do not provide back to the client, then I will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Okay. Again, now the point is here it is members in general. So when I say in professional capacity over here, it will not only be related to the practice, but employment also. Plus, when I say it's a members in general, in any other, but it should be professional capacity. Okay. So when member in general in his professional capacity, not only in practice but in employment or in any other professional capacity, if client has given me rupees 5 lakh, for example, they have given me 5 lakh, Mr. Harshad, please take this 5 lakh rupees and pay the GST amount, and later on we will be traveling, and I take away that money, I steal that money, I do not pay GST, and I run away somewhere, let's say for example Himalayas, I don't come back, I take all the money, then I will be held guilty for this under this particular clause. Okay, I hope it is clear. So it's a kind of a fraud I am doing over here, kind of a fraud. Any doubt, guys? Any doubt? Pretty simple. Come on, guys. Any doubt? The more you will ask, the more you will learn. So whether it's the silliest doubt, doesn't matter. Ask. The more you will ask, the more you will have a clarity about the particular concept. And if you have a more clarity, if you have, you can say, you will be able to answer it appropriately. Come on, guys. Any doubt? Also, please provide feedback. That is more important for us. Reason because it will help us to understand what things you require as an improvement, or what are the things that you will be looking for, that additional from our side. So it will help us, really help us. Okay. Okay, no issues. So guys, moving to the next clause for today. Okay, now I'm going to take part 3. This was part 2, which was applicable to members in general, professional misconduct for members in general. Now I'm going to take part 3. Now when I say part 3 is regarding other misconduct. I'm talking about other misconduct. Now other misconduct for members in general. So other misconducts for members in general. Okay. Now what it talks about, there is only one thing in this particular part. It talks about that a member of institute, whether in practice or not, okay, member of institute, he will be deemed to guilty of other misconduct. Remember, till now I was using professional misconduct. Till now, for the part 1, for the part 2, I was using word professional misconduct. But now I will be using the word other misconduct. Reason because for the disciplinary action, or the whole procedure, there are bifurcations for the professional misconduct, there are bifurcations for other misconduct. Okay, the penalties are different, the punishments are different. So when I say other misconduct, so he will be held guilty of other misconduct if he is already guilty or already held guilty by any of civil or criminal code. If he is already held guilty by any of the civil or criminal code for an offense, okay, now which offense, for which the punishment of with imprisonment, okay, with imprisonment exceeds 6 months. Okay, now I'll give you one example in the current case. Mr. X entered into a contract with Mr. Y. Okay, now what was the contract was? Contract was like Mr. X will pay advance rupees 15 lakhs, and Mr. Y, after 2 months will deliver the service. Okay, so he needs to pay advance 15 lakhs and he will deliver after 2 months the service. Mr. X paid the advance, let's say 1/4/2020, and Mr. Y did not provide the service, and he ran away, and he was not providing the service. He was not picking up the phones. He was not appearing to Mr. X. So Mr. X filed a complaint, FIR, and he went to file a legal suit. Now it was held that by a civil court that Mr. Y is guilty of fraud. Remember IPC 420, IPC section 420, fraud. Okay, so he was held guilty of fraud, and civil court say that okay, now if you are now held guilty of fraud, now you need to go for 8 months jail, rigorous imprisonment, 8 months time in jail, Tihar jail or whatever jail it is. So you need to go in jail. Now Mr. Y was member of institute. So along with that, this 8-month jail time, he will also get guilty under other misconduct of this part 3, that where he was already, like, where if he's held guilty for any offense which the punishment for with imprisonment exceeds 6 months. So although he is guilty under IPC, he will be held also guilty under part 3. Any doubt? Any doubt? Guys, I'll again say, the more you will ask, the more you will learn. So please feel free to ask. Any doubt, guys? No? Okay. So what I'll do is I'll take up one of the suggested answer. Okay. And what I'll do is we'll try to see how to answer a question in exam. Okay, let me pull up one of the questions. So the purpose of this particular exercise is to understand how to answer in exam. It's a suggested answer. Okay, just let me pull up the question over here. Here we go. So the question was, Miss CAR, a chartered accountant in practice, is specializing in the field of information system audit. He is considered to be one of the experts of his field because of his command over the subject. HKC Limited, a company engaged in rendering management consultancy, offered him to appoint as a managing director. CAR accepted the position of managing director without obtaining prior permission from the institute. One of his friends, CAS, informed him that now he cannot retain full-time certificate of practice, thus cannot do a test function and train article assistant. Comment with reference to the provision of Chartered Accountants Act 1949 and schedules thereto. Okay, first of all, understand the scenario. What question is asking? Okay, so question is asking you to comment with reference to the provisions of Chartered Accountants Act and schedules thereto. Okay, now what is the scenario over here is R has accepted position as a managing director without obtaining prior information from institute. R has obtained position of managing director without obtaining prior information from institute. Clear? Remember something we saw in clause 11 in previous lectures? Okay, I'll bring that up for the revision. Remember clause 11 we discussed, a member in practice engages in any other business or occupation other than the permitted by council. There are two things: general resolution, special resolution, regulation 198, and members in practice or partners should not be interested as an auditor and director of a company. They were not allowed for MD or WT, whole-time director or managing director. Remember something we discussed in previous lectures? Now specific resolution is where we need to take prior approval, and it was office of managing director, whole-time director. Remember something that in a special resolution we need to take a prior approval, and in that particular list there was a one item of office of managing director and whole-time director. Now in the current case, without obtaining prior approval from the institute, the member has engaged or the member has accepted the appointment of managing director. So how to answer that particular question? Okay, first of all, always make sure you provide the provision first. What is the provision? What are the facts or the clauses that or the relevant provisions that you are going to apply in the current case scenario? So over here we are talking about clause 11. So first is provision to be applied or / applicable. What is the provision that is applicable in the current scenario? That is clause 11 we are talking about. So explain the clause 11. As per the clause 11, as per clause 11 of part 1 of first schedule to the Chartered Accountants Act. Now again, see how it is mentioned that as per clause 11 of part 1 of first schedule to the Chartered Accountants Act, appropriate referencing. I just cannot write clause 1 of part 1. No. I cannot write clause 1 of first schedule. No. I cannot write, okay, as per the clause, like mentioned in the part 1 of first schedule, but I do not give reference of chartered accountant. It is always appropriate to give exact reference or, proper referencing of that particular provision. Some people write, okay, for example, as per section 23. That's it. Which act we are talking about? What is the act we are talking about? Or let's say, for example, let's say it's something in Companies Act. It may be a rule. Let's say, for example, Rule 4. So as per Rule 4, now which Rule 4 of which rules? Pursuant to which act? Which provision of act? So you need to provide appropriate referencing when I say, to make your answer appropriate clear. Okay, now, as per clause 11, part 1 of first schedule to the Chartered Accountants Act, a chartered accountant in practice will be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he engages in any other business or occupation other than the profession of chartered accountant unless permitted by council to engage. Now, there are certain things that, if we change, it will change the meaning of the whole sentence. Some people only write, if some people forgot to write this particular thing, professional misconduct. Some might write, okay, other misconduct instead of professional. Chartered accountant will be held guilty of other misconduct, or they might write, okay, held guilty of misconduct, but they do not provide word professional. Whatever things are there that we are discussing, they are important and they are required to be quoted. Reason because when I say professional misconduct, in disciplinary actions, there are punishments, or the provisions are based on whether it's a professional misconduct or whether it's the other misconduct. If I only write misconduct, it can be professional, it can be other. So it is always better to clarify which misconduct we are talking about. Okay. Also, even though I have mentioned this is a part 1 first schedule, I still mentioned, or answer still mentions, okay, it is for chartered accountant in practice. Now, chartered accountant in practice will be held deemed guilty of professional misconduct. Okay. If he engages, then from here to here, it is a clause that we are talking about. If he engages in any other business or occupation other than the profession of chartered accountant, unless permitted by council to so. Okay. Also, if you read further, the council decided to allow members in practice to hold office of MD, whole-time director, manager of body corporate within the meaning of Companies Act, provided that body corporate is engaged exclusively in rendering management consultancy and other services permitted by the council pursuant to section 2.2 of Chartered Accountants Act. Okay. And complies with the conditions as specified the council from time to time. If the corporate is involved in whole time my management consultancy service, then it is permitted under section 224 of Chartered Accountants Act. Okay. The name of the management consultancy company is required to be approved by institute, and company has to be registered with the institute. So there is another provision which is coming into the picture, which is section 2.2 of Chartered Accountants Act. Okay. Section 2, subsection 2, clause 4. Now this talks about, okay, council is allowed to hold office of managing director, whole-time director, when the corporate is only involved in management consultancy service or other service permitted by council. This is other provision. Okay. So I explained the other provision which is applicable over here. Now, I'll explain further based on above two provisions, and explain further that the member can retain full certificate of practice beside being managing director, whole-time director, or manager of such management consultancy company. There will be no restriction on the quantum of equity holding of the member, either individually or along with relatives in such company. Such members shall be regarded as a full-time in practice, therefore can continue to do so. A test function, either individual capacity or proprietor partnership, in which they can practice and where they are also entitled to train article assistant. Now, why I am discussing this particular topic? Reason because if you see in the my question, people only focus on this particular point which I have highlighted, that CAR accepted the position of managing director without obtaining prior permission. But they forgot to answer this one. One of his friends, CAS, informed him that he cannot retain full-time certificate of practice, thus cannot do attest function and train article assistant. So there is something else also being discussed in the question. Not only accepting, but also doing attesting functions, training articles. So there are 2 points which are being discussed: position, and second is my attest functions. Clear? I need to answer both. I cannot only answer one, because if today, if any of the thing is mentioned in your question, if any of the line is mentioned, okay, that means that is a part of your question that is required to be answered. It cannot be just additional information of no use. No, they are just not provided for the additional information of no use. This is an information given reason because this is the part of the question and you need to answer to this problem also, whether one of the friend that CAS that what he has informed is correct or not. And after performing and providing the provisions and after discussing the current scenario, you need to provide your conclusion. Thus, the actions of CA are valid. See how it goes. Initially, it was appearing okay. He will be held guilty of professional misconduct. By reading the first line over here, okay, he accepts the position of managing director without obtaining prior permission from institute. It appears to be okay. He will be held guilty. But when you see the whole portion, like okay, HKC is a company engaged in rendering management consultancy. Okay, and that company is only into the management consultancy. So after seeing all of the details which are provided into the question, you need to provide your answer accordingly. Any doubt how to answer a question? First of all, if I say, I just summarize, explain the provision. Okay, then explain the exception. In our kit, it is an exception to the general provision. So clause 11 says that okay, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. But there is an exception to this of management consultancy service. So first I explain the provision, I explain the exception, then what I'll do is I explain the scenario, case scenario. What is the current case scenario? And then I will provide the conclusion. Okay, any doubt till now? Jay, if it is an advance for professional service, means he has received money in his professional capacity. Okay, then there is another clause also. Remember embezzlement, that he embezzles the money received in professional capacity, that will also attract. But that is only for, remember, that is in professional capacity, whether it's a professional capacity in practice, employment, or any other professional capacity. So that will applicable. Vidula, your question is not complete. Can you rewrite it again? See, Srinidhi, if you forget the section number or the clause number, then write what is relevant. Yeah, you can start with the provision. Okay, you can, if you are not aware with the section number or the provision number, that is okay, fine. Start like as per the provisions of, you might be whatever you can remember at that time. Let's say for example, if you are able to remember, okay, there was some of the provision in first schedule as per the provisions or as per the clauses of first schedule or provisions of first schedule of Chartered Accountants Act. Like this way you can start. So it is like, it depends upon how much you remember and like at the time of writing of answer, but whatever you write should be relevant. Vidula, actually, the thing is, if you know the provision, it will not appear to be lengthy. Because first I discussed clause 11, then I discussed the management consultancy service exception, then I discussed the current scenario of the attestation, and then conclusion. Generally, also, answer goes like this way only. Any doubt, guys? Any doubt? Now, why I'm discussing an answer reason, because at times it becomes difficult for students to how to write an answer. They know the provision, but they are confused with how to write an answer. This is how you need to write an answer. Okay, go with the like you need to provide a flow that okay, the reader also should able to understand what the writer is providing the information. Now I cannot do, okay, for example, I cannot just uh, write this first. What if I write this first, then second this, then third this? Okay, the reader will get confused, the examiner will get confused, like why reason? Because at the time I'm writing about clause 11 where he's where I'm talking about he will be held guilty, and suddenly my conclusion is something else. So my answer should work in a direction, my answer should flow in a direction where my conclusion is going. Okay, so for example, let's say my conclusion is not guilty. This is my start of answer. Let's say I started my answer by providing a provision which was held guilty. So from this I should move to this. Okay, I cannot do like this. Okay, my last line, everything last line was particularly talking about being guilty in the current scenario, and suddenly my conclusion is not guilty or everything is fine. That will be inappropriate because it may confuse the reader or the examiner. So it's always to write from the start point, let's say whatever start point you are taking towards your conclusion. Now whatever conclusion you feel or you see, you said okay, it's based on the provisions which is whichever is correct. I hope it is clear. So if I follow, let's say for example, this hierarchy, like first I am writing this, second I am this, second third I am this, then it will be wrong. It will not give a clarity. I am not saying your answer will be wrong, but it will not give a clarity. It will be difficult for anyone to read, and to correlate it. Although you have quoted the provision, it's just an, it will create an inconvenience. I hope it is clear. Harshad, you need to see the guidelines in the current case reason, because okay, you need to see whether it is permitted or not. If it is permitted, then you need to check for the other regulations whether it is allowed or not. So remember we talked about special permissions. So you need to consider those things, and on the basis of that you need to define whether other factors are also there. Any doubt, guys? Any doubt? Any doubt till now? No? Correct, Vidula. Absolutely correct. Yep. Okay. Jay, there are specific guidelines given that that regarding the management consultancy services. Uh, I'll show you. Just a minute. Let me bring it to. Just a minute. Let me bring it to for you. We also discussed in one of our previous lecture regarding this. I'll show you. Just give me 1 minute. I'm bringing it. Okay. So remember in I think it was it was first lecture. It was first lecture where we discussed deemed to be in practice. Now, if you see the deemed to be in practice, point number 4, renders such other service as in opinion of the council or may be rendered by a chartered accountant in practice. Now, what was point number 4? Point number 4 talked about that permitting a chartered accountant in practice to render management consultancy services. Okay. We also discussed that okay, there was one resolution passed by council wherein certain services were allowed as a part of management consultancy service, like financial management, capital structuring, working capital management. There was certain list of services we discussed. Okay, these are the management consultancy services. It was like there were certain things also like not necessary he is actually engaged, but he also offers to provide, then it is also is fine. Remember something we discussed? And I ask you also, please go through and read all these services because it will give you clarity. So under that, one of the service was this also. So that was the part of management consultancy service which was allowed. So chartered accountant in practice were permitted to render, like they were permitted by the council. Okay, any doubt? I hope I have cleared. Yes, Vidula, if questions requires some other references also, like for example, if companies act provisions are also there as a part of the question, then you need to discuss that also. You need to mention that also. Okay. Okay. Now let me move towards the guidelines, council guidelines. We will discuss the council guidelines, and what I will do is for the council guidelines, guys. I will be referring to the module. So I'll ask you also to same time take out your modules and we can discuss, and then I'll help you highlight in important areas that we will be discussing. Okay, just let me pull up the thing. Some of the things we have already discussed, but some of the things are new and we need to discuss, and hence I'll be considering those. Just a minute. Sorry for the technical glitch. Okay. It is taking a bit of time. So, guys, what we are going to do is I will be discussing the council guidelines. Okay, council general guidelines 2008. It's chapter by chapter. Okay, I will be highlighting the things and I will be taking up the questions for the council general guidelines simultaneously with the chapter itself. Okay, now how the guidelines are defined or how the guidelines are structured is like the chapter 1 talks about short title and commencement of the guidelines. Then each and every chapter provides a detail about particular scenario or provides some information about or regulation about a particular scenario, and we will be discussing that scenario. Just a minute. Sorry for the technical glitch. Just a minute. Sorry. Okay. Okay. Now in your module it is 18.112, page 18.112. Yeah. So we are talking about Council General Guidelines 2008. Okay. So first, maintenance of books of account, which is chapter 5. What chapter 5 talks about? That a member of institute in practice or a firm of charter accountant, okay, of which he is a partner, shall keep and maintain proper books of account. When I say proper books of account, that means a cash book, a ledger. These are minimum which are mentioned. So these are the minimum one which are mentioned that you are required to maintain. Now, for example, there may be other provisions which are applicable. So let's say, for example, section 44A of Income Tax Act. So again, I say, okay, these are the minimum that are required to be mentioned. But if there is any additional criteria of any additional act, then those are also required to be complied with. Tax audit assignments, very important one. Chapter 6, tax audit assignment under section 44AB of Income Tax Act. Now, this chapter talks about, okay, what are the specified number of tax assignment that a chartered accountant in practice or a partner can take, or a chartered accountant firm. So the focus is here on the specified numbers of tax audit assignment. Now, when I say under section 44AB, okay, why I'll provide you in detail. Okay. Now, specified numbers, like which are these specific, what is the specified number we are talking about here is specified number is 60 tax assignments in a financial year. Okay. The specified number of tax assignment means 60 tax assignments, tax audit assignments in a financial year in case of a proprietary firm. Okay. When is a proprietary? In case of a proprietary firm. However, in case of a chartered accountant in practice, okay, in case of a firm of chartered accountant in practice, I'm talking about now firm, 60 tax assignments, tax audit assignment per partner in the firm in a financial year. So let's say CA in practice, sole proprietorship and partnership, 60 tax audit, because it's a one sole proprietor, so it will be only 60. In partnership, 60 per partner tax audit is allowed. Okay, 60 per partner is allowed. Now, one of the example I'll give you. Let's say ACB and Associates has Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. C, Mr. D, 4 partners. So per partner 60, 60, 60, 60. This is allowed. So 60 tax audits, allowed tax audit. Okay. So total how much? 240 tax audits are allowed. Now, let's say for example, signed. Mr. A signed 100, Mr. B signed 100, Mr. C signed 40, and he signed nil. Sorry. 240. So now you tell me, is this fine? Like how much they were allowed and how much they have signed. So for example, tax audit allowed was 60 per partner, but here Mr. A, B, C Mr. A and B has signed more. Is it fine in the current case? Come on, guys. Is it fine in the current case? Come on, guys. Is it appropriate? Correct, Jay. So it's also given in the module, or you can say to this clarification box over here, which is very important. Okay, this talks about this particular scenario only, that when we see the provision, it says that allowed is 60 per partner, but signing is there is no restriction on the signing. So firm wise limit I can calculate. Okay, this is the firm wise limit that a firm ACB associate can perform this many tax audits, but signing can anyway. You know, Mr. A can sign 10 alone 240 and rest can sign 0. That is fine. That is allowed. Okay. So the tax audit limit is on the firm. When I say partnership firm, it says that 60 per partner, it is allowed to carry. Okay. Okay. Now, audit conducted under 44 AD, ADA, 44 AE, not to be taken in account for the purpose of limit. Not to be taken in account for the purpose of specified number of tax audit assignment. So 44 AD, AD1 and AE are not required to be considered. I hope it is clear. Okay. Then tax audit of head office, branch office will be regarded as one. Okay. Tax audit of head office and branch office will be regarded as a one tax audit. Audit of one or more branches, again one tax audit. If it is a multiple branches, then one tax audit. Now, if it is CA in practice for the part-time practicing, then that partner will not be counted. The partner of the firm shall not be counted for the purpose of tax audit assignment. So, for example, let's say in our scenario, Mr. C, he was part-time part-time in practice. So his limit of 60 will not be counted, and the revised limit that was allowed for a firm was only 180, and accordingly they can sign till 180. I hope it is clear. Any doubt? Any doubt, guys? Okay. Okay. Now, now there is also a requirement that on chartered accountant in practice is required to maintain a record of tax audit assignment accepted by him in each assessment year. So in each assessment year, how many tax audits he has accepted? That is the required he needs to maintain, which is prescribed by the council. Okay. Then appointment of auditor in case of a non-payment of undisputed fees. Okay. Now we already discussed that also, a member of the institute shall not accept the appointment in case there is an undisputed fee. Remember when there was we were talking about accepting the appointment as an auditor without communicating to the previous auditor. Okay. Remember something we discussed in past lecture. So if there is an undisputed fee, there is a non-payment of undisputed fee, then the member should not accept. Okay. Now when I say non-payment of undisputed fee, there was an exception given. Exception given was to the sick unit. Like this particular scenario is not applicable in case of sick unit. So above provision of acceptance shall not apply in case of sick unit. Now there was a definition given for the sick unit. For the purpose of sick unit means sick unit is a registered unit for not less than 5 years and has at the end of any financial year accumulated losses. Remember, accumulated losses equal to or exceeding entire net worth. At the end of any financial year, I'm talking about any financial year, my accumulated losses are equal to or exceeding entire net worth. Then it means a sick unit. Clear? Any doubt? We have already discussed this provision in previous lecture also. Any doubt, guys? No? Okay. Again, next important one is chapter 8, specified number of audit assignment. Now earlier we discussed in previous chapter, in chapter number 6, yeah, over here, tax audit assignment under section 44 AB. Now when I say chapter number 8, it talks about audit assignments, specified of audit assignments. And when I say audit assignments, it says that specified number of audit assignment of Companies Act under section 141 of Companies Act. Okay. So we are talking about companies audit. Now what are these? What is the specified number we are talking about? So the specified number of audit assignment means 30 audit assignment in respect of private companies or other companies. Now there is an exception. Now exception is of 1% company and dormant companies. Again, in case of a firm, 30 audit assignment per partner. Of private companies, again there is an exception which talks about 1% company and dormant companies. Okay. So Other than one-person company, dormant company, 30 audit assignment per partner. Same way, like earlier it was 60, here it is 30. Okay, then again, head office, branch office. Okay, audit of head office, branch office of a company shall be regarded as one audit assignment. Okay, audit of one or more branch offices in which will be regarded as a one audit assignment only. Now, number of partners on the date of acceptance of audit assignment shall be taken into account. Now, let's say on the date of acceptance, there are only 2 partners, so 30, 30. And let's say on the date of acceptance, there are 3 partners, then 30, 30, 30, 90. So on the date of acceptance, I need to see number of partners. Again, in the same way, if it is in the part-time if it in the part-time employment or part-time in service, then he is not required to be counted chartered accountant in practice who is part-time employment, meaning part-time in practice, is not required to be counted for specified number of audit of companies. Okay, same as here, part-time practicing not required to be taken. Again, maintain record of the audit assignment accepted by the firm. So you are required to maintain record for the audit assignment. It is the same way it was for the tax assignment. I hope it is clear. Any doubt till now? Any doubt? Any doubt, guys? Jay, I did not understand your question. Can you rewrite it again? Okay. Any doubt, guys? Okay. Let me move forward then, if no further doubts. Okay. Now, the next chapter we are going to discuss is appointment as a statutory auditor. Now, this is for some specific government companies or public sector companies. Okay. So it talks about a member in practice shall not accept appointment as a statutory auditor of public sector undertakings, government companies, listed companies, and other public companies having turnover of 50 CR. So, which are the companies we are talking about over here? First is a public sector undertaking, PSU. We are talking about government company. We are talking about listed company. We are talking about other public company having turnover greater than 50 CR or more. Okay. So we are talking about these companies, and what is the requirement over here is like where he has accepted any work or assignment. So accepts any work or assignment to regard to the same undertaking on a remuneration which in total exceed fee payable for carrying out stat audit. So if, let's say for example, I'm giving some services, okay, let's say some other assignment to this particular public sector undertaking, government and list companies, which is allowed along with my, let's say, appointment of a statutory auditor. And if that particular assignment, okay, that particular assignment fee is more than, okay, is more than the remuneration of the statutory audit, then I should not. So says that where he accept other work or assignment on a remuneration which total exceed the fee payable for carrying out stat audit. Clear? So I shall not accept. So if fees of other service is greater than remuneration of stat audit, then I should not accept the appointment. Clear? I hope it is clear. Now, when I say other work, okay, what is other work we are talking about? So council has, specified, okay, other work will not include any other, audit any other statute, certification work required to be done by statutory auditor, any representation before any authority. So these are the 3 points which shall not be included in term other work, like audit under statute, any other statute, certification work, or any representation before any authority. I hope it is clear. Any doubt till now? Any doubt? Also, this restriction will apply if like if we are providing services through, you can say, associate concerns. Like for example, there are some associate concerns, and if they are providing services on the statutory auditors associate concern will consider their fees also. So we need to consider associate concerns also in case of providing service. Okay. Any doubt? No? No, Jay. So in total, you need to count 60. If you are taking at one place, then it will be counted as a part of a 60. You cannot have 60, 60, 60 everywhere. In aggregate total, it should be. So Mahendra, tax audit 60, statutory audit 30, but again you need to take out 1% company and dormant company in tax audit. There were other audits that are required to be excluded for counting the limit. Okay. If no further queries, then guys, let's take a break and we'll come back in 10 minutes. Hello everyone, welcome back. I hope everyone is recharged after the break. Okay, so quickly we'll move to the next chapters. Okay.
Are you okay now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move to the next chapter. Chapter 10. Now, chapter 10 is sort of, brings a sort of disqualification, or you can say, appointment to an in-depth concern, where there is only security or any kind of, in-depthness is there. Okay, so remember there are provisions in the Companies Act also which disqualifies a chartered accountant in practice being appointed as a statutory auditor when he is in debt to a person or in debt to a company. In the same way, there is a guidelines also from the institute, okay, which talks about if a chartered accountant in member of institute in practice, okay, or a partner of a firm or any of a relative of such member or partner. So when I say partner, member, or a relative of such partner or member, okay, like shall not accept appointment as an auditor while in debt to the concern. Like if we are in debt to that particular concern or has given any guarantee, okay, or any kind of security to that particular entity or concern, amount exceeding of 1 lakh rupees, then we are not required to accept the appointment. Again, member, partner, relative shall not accept if in debt or has given any security amount exceeding 1 lakh rupees. Clear? So they should not accept an appointment as an auditor. Any doubt? Anshika, I'll be sharing. Don't worry on this part. Srinidhi, can you rewrite it a bit more elaborative, the question? Thank you. Okay. Then I'll take up some important ones. UDIN guidelines. Okay. Now, when I say UDIN guidelines, everyone knows that okay, the UDIN is mandatory now. So, for all certificates with effect from 1st February 2019, for GST and tax audit reports with effect from 1st April 2019, and for all audit assurance and attested function with effect from 1st July 2019. So, member in practice shall generate UDIN for all kinds of certificate, GST and tax audit reports and other assurance engagement. Okay. Now there is a new part which talks about networking guidelines. Okay. Now what is networking guidelines, guys? Is networking guidelines is related to network of firms. If there is a larger structure, combination of firms coming together to form a larger structure with other firms and entities, that becomes a networking guidelines. Or net becomes a network, and for that a guidelines has been issued by institute which governs this particular thing. When I say a larger structure, the larger structure is aimed at a cooperation. You can say cost sharing, or sharing same technology, sharing same knowledge, or they have a same knowledge gathered or knowledge base which they are sharing within the firm itself or within multiple firms. That is the main part: cooperation, cost sharing, knowledge sharing. So these are some critical points, or you can say some targets for which they aim to a larger structure. Okay. Now in what way we are talking about a larger structure? It can be under common brand name, or a common system of quality control, or professional resources. Okay, so it can be a common pool of resources which they can be using for their structure. So when I say network of firms, it is a larger structure for, you can say, cost sharing or profit, or increasing their profits. But again, when I say cost sharing, what it can mean to is, using common pool of resources. For example, let's say I have a audit documenting software. So I have purchased audit documenting software. Now software is costly. So 3 or 4 firms together, we are deciding, okay, one person will purchase audit documenting software, multi-license, and all will use, common pool. Or you can say knowledge sharing. So we have developed a knowledge base. For example, guidance is practical application guidance on the IFRS, Ind AS, all stuff. Audits, tax audit, GST. So application guidance, templates, audit templates, working papers, structure. You can say draft letters, engagement letters, and all those stuff. So knowledge base is created. The firms are sharing the knowledge. Okay. So knowledge base, sharing knowledge base. Then you can say a sort of uh, resource sharing. Let's say, for example, they have created a common pool of resources. You can say manpower resource for for the purpose of audit or something like that. So resource sharing. So for these purposes, a network is created, a larger structure is created. You can say for quality control. Okay. So if they have a common system, or or sort of common resource pooling, they can be called a larger structure. Okay. Now like there can be various different forms of network. Okay, different structures of the network. Okay, I'll suggest you go to that particular guidelines which talks about, okay, what are the different forms of network can be. Network can be mutual entity one. Network can be a partnership firm subject to conditions. Network can be a the limited liability partnership. A network can be a company. There are various ways to create a network. Okay, so these are the forms of network. Okay. Now you need to see that, okay, a firm is allowed to only join one network. So there can be firms having common partners, and like joining only one network. So you need to see what is the structure present for the networking of firm. Now there are guidelines provided by the institute for the approval of name of the network of the firm, and what these guidelines say that the network may have a distinct name. So network may have a distinct name, okay, which should be approved by the institute. So network's name should be approved by the institute. To distinguish a network from the firm, the word and affiliates, or a word and company, like and affiliates shall be used, but and company, or you can say and associates, shall not be used. So it is always it is advisable to use and affiliates, not and company and associates. Okay. Then provisions, regulation 190 just we discussed, will be applicable here also. Then like institute can approve the name or reject the name, okay, of its network, and within a period of within 30 days from the receipt of same form, institute will intimate the same. So intimate the same to the network, okay, within a period of not later than 30 days. Okay, institute shall approve or reject the name. It is there within 30 days. They will come to know that whether the name has been approved or not. Okay. Now understand the concept of network is not entitled to carry practice. Means network is not for the practice but for the resource sharing. So network cannot practice in their own name. It is not allowed. So when I say, for example, ABC and affiliates cannot carry practice on their own name, but they are just for the resource sharing. Okay, so this is how a basic understanding of the network and registration of approval for the name is there. Now registration of network with the institute. Okay, once the name is approved, as per the guidelines that we discussed now, within the period of 3 months from that approval, they are required to register. Okay, network is required to register within the period of 3 months. Otherwise the name will stand cancelled. Once they have approved the name, get it registered within 3 months. Registration is mandatory. Okay, registration is mandatory. And in like there can be multinational accounting firms which can be part of network, but that is there. Okay. Now this was within India, network with entities in India. Now there is also for network with entities outside India. Now in case of a network with entities outside India, Indian member, okay, of that particular network shall file a declaration with institute. The authorized representative, I can say, or the person representing the Indian member firm shall file a declaration within 30 days. Okay, from the date of entering into network arrangement. So for example, I entered into a network arrangement, let's say on 1/4/2022. So within 30 days, let's say 30th April 2022, I need to file a declaration. Now listing of network with entities outside India. So it's a global network, multi country network I'm talking about here. Okay, so I need to file a declaration that I have entered, inform the list of such network within 30 days from the date of entering into network arrangement. Okay, now again, like LLP, proprietorship or partnership firm or members are permitted by the act, to join such network outside India, or any, but only one network. Okay, allowed to join only one network. Remember that. I cannot be part of multiple network. I'm part of this network, I'm part of that network, I'm part of this network, I'm part of all the networks. No, are allowed to join only one network. Okay. Then so all the relevant compliances that we saw as of today, will be applicable to them. So that is there. So individual firms will be, have to comply with the relevant guidelines or the things that we saw as of now. Okay. Then okay, now any doubt with respect to the network guidelines, you can read rest of the things also, rest of the network guidelines. I have discussed the important criteria, some of the important points of the network guideline. Any doubt? Vidula, yes. If you are referring to the guidelines, then it's always advisable. You can, if you give the maximum reference to that, maximum reference which is available. Okay. Then I'll touch upon one more area over here is chapter logo guidelines. Sorry, just a minute. Yeah, logo guidelines. Now there is a logo defined. Okay, this is the correct logo. In any way, you cannot alter the logo. If you want to use, you cannot alter the logo. Neither changes color. Okay, neither background colors or foreground colors. Anyway, you cannot rotate anyway, like this way or this way. Not allowed. So these are not allowed. You cannot alter the logo. You need to use the common logo which is there if you want to use. Okay. So you cannot change the logo in any of the case. You cannot to change the colors, rotation, size. That is not allowed. So there is a specific logo given. You need to use that common logo. I hope it is clear. Okay. Then coming to the next one. Okay. Corporate form of practice. like when there is a management consultancy company that we discussed as of now, which is allowed, that we saw in the question also. Okay, so management consultancy company, so council has allowed directors, or council had allowed members in practice to hold office of MD or whole time director or manager of a body corporate, which is of a company. Okay, exclusively rendering management consultancy or other allowed services or permitted services. So council says that if it is a member in practice, he can be a managing director, whole-time director, exclusively in rendering of a company, exclusively rendering management consultancy services or other services which are permitted. We just now saw, remember, section 2.2, there were 4 points. Okay. Now, another area is member can be a full-time practice, can have a certificate of practice, full-time certificate of practice, along being the managing director, full-time director, or manager of such company. So I can be in full-time practice also, I can be a MD or whole-time director also. So if I'm being in a full-time practice, there will be no restriction of applied to me that okay, I cannot sign the audit reports, I cannot form a attested function. So I can continue to do attest functions also. There is no restriction for me. Clear? Now, if there is a management consultancy company, then name is required to approve. So name of the company register is required to approved by the institute, and the company has to be registered with institute. So it is required that okay, the company should have a name approved and registered with the institute. Now we are talking about management consultancy service, not audit one. So audit practice, no audit practice can be done in corporate form. We already saw there is a restriction with respect to audit practice. So no audit practice can be done in a corporate form. So only management consultancy services. Clear? Any doubt? I cannot accept as in statutory audit, or in a corporate form. That is not allowed. Okay. Then okay. Now we saw guidelines for the write-up. What should be the write-up? Okay, we saw when we were discussing it should be honest, truthful. So these are already discussed. I'll not take up much time. We already discussed what should be the advertisement through write-ups and also in the clause itself. So that is fine. That is already done. Website, we also saw it should be on pull mode, not on push mode. Okay, how it should be website, the name of the website already discussed in previous one. That is fine. Online third-party platforms. There are certain platforms where like banks, finance companies have their set advisory services or taxation services, sort of providing advisory to clients, some sort of, let's say for example XYZ company set up a website to provide advisory on tax. Okay, now charter accountant firms can provide consultation or a website or advice to the clients through such website, but there are conditions. Okay, that contract address is not there on such website, or any advertisement is not being carried out. So you need to make sure, okay, if chartered accountant firm is involved in providing the in such advisory, contact address of the chartered accountant is not required to be provided. Okay, advertisement should not be there of professional achievements, like don't do such advertisement. It only the name of chartered accountant firm with suffix chartered accountant would not be permitted. Means I can only write the name of firm, but I cannot write XYZ and associate chartered accountant firms. No, not allowed. Okay, so these are the things you need to take care while there is an online third-party platforms where you are providing the advisory services. Okay. Then yeah, that's it. I'll suggest you read rest of the guidelines also, because it will enhance your understanding. If any questions, then you please ask. I will be happy to answer. Vidula, unfortunately, you see, I cannot reason because it is not appropriate to refer here any names. So I won't be able to do that. Sorry. But hypothetically, example, if I give you, let's say there are three firms: A, B, C, D, E, F, and F and G. Okay. So ADF, they create ADF and affiliates. So there is a network. But uh, sorry, I cannot refer some names over here practically, because that is something not allowed. Okay, any other questions, guys, with respect to any of the topic in the professional ethics? Read as much you can. Read, because it will enhance your understanding. I'll say there are some important points that I highlighted, and I'll also suggest you to highlight these points. And but that doesn't, like, you are not only supposed to read these highlighted one, you are supposed to read each and everything which is given in the module. Reason, because it will enhance your understanding, and that only will help you to answer the question. Okay, any doubts with respect to the professional ethics? Any doubt, any of the part? Any doubt, guys? No? Okay. So, after this professional ethics, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a new topic, okay, which is companies audit. Okay. Now, what we are going to do today is I will be discussing the sections, okay, relevant sections which are applicable for the company audit. Let's say from section 139 to 147, 148, whichever is applicable, I'll go through. I'll also discuss what are the amendments in these sections that will help us understanding, okay, what we are dealing with. In the next and coming lectures, what will be I doing is I will be taking up the topic of Caro and Schedule 3. So I'll advise you to read thoroughly these topics well before, so that it will give you understanding, okay, what we are discussing in the coming lectures. Okay, so companies audit, what is topic of, like, what is companies audit when we say it? So companies audit is relevant sections of Companies Act applicable to the audit, statutory audit. They start from we will be discussing from section 138, which is internal audit, to 148, which is government to specify audit. So I will be just, okay, let me write it down, some of the relevant provisions that we are going to discuss over here. Okay, so okay, section 138 talks about internal audit. This is for the company set. When I say now here, I'm referring to the company set. Okay, section 139 talks about appointment of auditors. Then section 140, okay, talks about removal, resignations of auditor. One 141 talks about eligibility or qualifications of auditor. Then 142 talks about remuneration of auditor. Very important section, very important section is 143, which talks about powers and duties of auditor. Powers and duties of auditor. Now, when I say powers, like what are the powers, or you can say rights of the auditor, and duties, when I say where the auditor is required to report, on what areas the auditor is required to report. So it's the powers and duties of auditor, and very important section, because this is the most important, we'll be discussing in more detail. Then 144, we already discussed in some of the previous lectures. Remember, auditor not to render certain services, management consultancy services or something we discussed, remember? Which are allowed, management consultancy service allowed, but which are not allowed as per section 144. We cannot, provide these services even though approved by board. We will again discuss this particular topic. 145 is related to signing of audit report. Okay, like auditor to sign the audit report. Then comes 146. 146 is, auditor to attend general meeting. uh, 147 is punishment, or you can say fines for the contravention. Okay, punishment or fine for the contravention of any of the provisions above. But there are some exclusions and exceptions we'll see when we'll discuss that. And 148 is government specified audit. So government, may specify audit in items of cost in certain companies. So by central government. So basically, this is we are going to discuss in the company's audit plus Caro plus Schedule 3. Okay. There are other provisions also that we will be discussing, like dividend, limited liability partnership. Okay. Along with these provisions. Okay. Okay. So let me start. So if I say amendments in these provisions, when I say what are the amendments we are looking here in these particular provisions, so majority the amendments are with respect to penalty changes among these provisions. I'm not talking about as of now Caro 2020 or Schedule 3 changes. No, I'm talking about changes in these particular sections. So as of now, if I say the changes are, penalty changes, and as it when we'll go through the section, we'll discuss, okay, where is the amendment and what is the penalty change. Okay. Okay. So let me start with first of the section, which is section 139. Appointment of auditor. Okay, yeah. Appointment of auditor. Now, what section 139 describes is, okay, what is the procedure of appointment of auditor? Okay, what are the things in case of first auditor, like in case of first auditor, how it is required to be appointed, and in case of subsequent auditor, a subsequent appointment, how they are required to be appointed. Okay, so guys, you have, I think this particular topic you have also seen in, IPCC, you have also seen in the Companies Act corporate law section. Okay, without wasting much time, what I'll be doing is I will be, explaining you these provisions in a summarized form, though it will help you understanding your enhancement for this particular topic. Okay. Okay. So what provision says of section 139 is in case of a company, like if it is a first time appointment of auditor, if it is a first time appointment of an auditor other than government company, okay, so first time appointment of auditor. Now it is a other than government company. Other than government company. Now this is not a government company. Okay. Then how it is required to be appointed? Within 30 days from the date of registration by board of directors. So appointment by board of directors. When I say within 30 days from date of registration, within 30 days. Now appointment is required to be done within 30 days from the date of registration by board of directors. Okay. In case board fails, now it may happen, because of any reason board is not able to appoint, then in EGM within 90 days it is required to be appointed. So EGM appointment should be there. Now, but in how many days? It is within 90 days. Okay, within 90 days from the end of about 30 days, auditor is required to be appointed. It's clear. Now what if it's a government company? Okay, if this is a government company, then appointment is required to be done by, as usual, CNAG. Now CNAG is required to appoint, but what is the timeline over here we are talking about is, instead of 30 days, now it will become within 60 days from date of registration. That's the timeline we are talking about over here. Okay, now within 60 days, what if CNAG is not able to appoint? Same, if CNAG is not able to appoint, then this cycle will start. Then appointment is required to be done by board of directors within 30 days. So appointment by board of director within 30 days. Okay. Okay. By within 30 days from the above, not date of registration here it will be, but it will be from the above date. Okay. From the end of 60 days. It will be by board. Now, if board fails, then what? If board is also not able to appoint, then EGM appointment. Now, what is the time limit for EGM appointment is? See, earlier it was 90 days. Reason because initially it started from the 30 days. But here CNAG also has 60 days. So the time limit will reduce and it will become only within 60 days. Okay. So this is how the appointment is required to be done. I hope it is clear. Any doubt till now? Any doubt? Any doubt? So also, if you want, what I'll do is I'll mention the section number over here so that it will help you understanding, okay, which section I'm referring or subsection I'm referring. So when I say appointment of first auditor other than government company is 139 subsection 6. And when I say for the government company, it is 139 subsection 7, first auditor by CNAG. Okay. Okay. Now let's talk about subsequent appointments. Okay. What are the provisions for the subsequent appointments? For the subsequent appointment, again, we will bifurcate between other companies and government companies. So other than government company and government company. Okay. Okay. Now, in case of subsequent appointment other than government company, what you are required to see first of all is, okay, appointment of auditor will be from AGM to AGM. We know that appointment of auditor will be from AGM to AGM. Okay. Now, this appointment is required, like there is a procedure given, there is a procedure for the appointment of auditor in Rule 3 that is required to be followed. So, first of all, you need to follow procedure of Rule 3. Okay. Rule 3. Now, Rule 3 provides a procedure. Okay. Board or audit committee to consider the qualification. Audit committee may call for other information. Audit committee will suggest a name. Board will agree, disagree. I'll be explaining that particular rule also. But first, follow the Rule 3. Okay. Then, once you follow the Rule 3, then what you are required to do is appointment is required to be done by members in AGM. So as I said, it will be AGM to AGM. The appointment is done AGM to AGM. So appointment will be done by members in AGM. Sorry. By members in AGM. Okay. I will be the appointment will be done by members in AGM. Okay. Now, till what time this appointment will be valid? Again, AGM to AGM, but there is a provision of rotation. Okay. There is a provision of rotation which restricts the appointment of an auditor to 6th AGM. So, auditor can hold office from conclusion of first AGM to 6th AGM. Now, why from 1st to 6th? Reason because I'll talk about here date of registration of company. This is the date of registration. This is first AGM. Okay. Now, from the date of registration to the first AGM is my first appointment, which is done by board or EGM, whatever it is, or in case of a government company, CNAG or board or whatever. So from the date of registration to the first AGM, it will be first appointment. And from the first AGM till the conclusion of my 6th AGM, it will be a subsequent appointment. Okay. Now this subsequent appointment will be by members in AGM. Clear? So this is how the appointment goes for the auditor. Now, why we are saying 6th appointment? Because there's a provision for the rotation, and we'll be discussing a provision in a while. Okay. Now, I told you, okay, we are required to follow Rule 3 for the appointment. So, procedure for the Rule 3 is required to be followed over here. What is the Rule 3 procedure I'm talking about? What procedure says that? Okay. What is the Rule 3 procedure? So, Rule 3 procedure says that, okay, in case of appointment of an auditor, okay, in case of appointment of an auditor, first of all, okay. So, in case of appointment, first of all, what will happen is board or audit committee. Board/audit committee will, okay, like suggest, or you can say will consider the qualification of auditor. So they will consider qualification of auditor, whether auditor is qualified to be appointed as a statutory auditor for the company, his qualification, experience, which firm is their proposed firm, whether the such qualification and experience are appropriate as per the size and requirement of the company. So they will consider the qualification. Okay, now once they will consider the qualification, what they will do is they may ask for additional information. To consider the qualification, they will ask, okay, please provide us the additional information, how many partners you are, what sort of technology you use, like in data analytics, what software you use, how you are planning to conduct the audit, or may call for additional information. So they may call for additional information. Okay, what technology you use, what is the tool you use for the documenting audit, what are the tools you use for the data analytics. Okay, fine. So auditor will provide additional information. Okay. Now once auditor will provide the additional information, then what audit committee or board will do is, audit committee will send a name to the board, and if board agrees, then they will present a name to the AGM. Okay. Sorry. Just give me 1 second. Just 1 second. There is some issue. Sorry. Yeah. So, so audit committee will forward a name to BOD, and BOD, if agrees, then forward will name to this recommendation to AGM for appointment. Okay, so if they are satisfied with the additional information, and if they are fine with the additional information, audit committee will present to BOD, and BOD will take forward. What if BOD does not agree? What if says no, the name suggested by the audit committee is not appropriate? Okay, then board can send back recommendations to the audit committee. If they do not agree, then they can send back recommendations. If not agree, then they can send back the recommendation to the audit committee. Please consider this. These are the reasons why we are not agreeing. And still, if audit committee still does not agree, okay, no, I suggested Mr. X, board says Mr. X is not appropriate, consider Mr. Y. So they both then can forward their recommendation to AGM. If audit committee and board do not agree with each other, then one recommendation will be there by audit committee in AGM, and one recommendation will be by board in AGM. If they both disagree. Okay. Clear? Any doubt? Any doubt? Okay. Now, once the auditor is appointed, then what auditor is required to do is, or the management is required to do. Okay. Now, management is required. Okay. recommendation went, auditor selected. Now what? Now a written consent of the auditor for such appointment. Written consent for appointment of such appointment of auditor, and a certificate. Certificate of what? Okay, certificate that if he is appointed, then his condition, as per the condition prescribed in rule 5. We are discussing as of rule 3. Then a certificate that the appointment will be as per rule 5. So certificate for rule 5 will be obtained from auditor. A written consent and certificate. Now, what is rule 5 we are talking about? That we will be discussing in a while. Okay, what are the rule 5? Rule 5 means, for the class of company where the rotation is applicable. So rule 5 talks about rotation for the classes of company. To whom the rotation is applicable. Okay, means I am eligible to be appointed after the provisions of rotation applicable. So my tenure has not exceeded, 2 terms have not exceeded in case of a firm, or single term in case of a sole proprietorship, and from first AGM to 6th AGM, not more than that. Means all those conditions are satisfied. So rule 5 certificate, that is as per the provisions of rotation, and a written consent for the appointment, plus a certificate from the auditor will be obtained. Okay, that certificate that criteria of section 141 are satisfied from auditor. Now what is 141? Just now we saw 141 is eligibility of auditor, for appointment of auditor. Now auditor will know, okay, whether I'm eligible or not. He will be having all those details, and hence the auditor needs to certify that, okay, I'm eligible for being appointed as an auditor under section 141. So I meet all the criteria which are given. Clear? So you need to obtain these certificates. Okay, and once you follow this procedure, then in AGM you are appointed as an auditor. Okay, now once you are appointed as an auditor in AGM, you will be holding the office from conclusion of first AGM to the 6th AGM. Clear? Then for example, now he's appointed. Now what is required to be done is file form ADT1 within 15 days. Okay, with certificate. A notice is required to be given to the registrar under form ADT1. So file form ADT1, okay, within 15 days. 15 days from date of meeting or AGM we are talking about here. Clear? So within 15 days with certificate that you need to file form ADT1. Now that was for other than government company. Now in case of a government company, what is the procedure? In case of a government company, just a minute. Appointment is done by, in case of a government company, appointment is done by CNAG. Okay. Now CNAG will appoint within 180 days. Within 180 days from the commencement of year. Okay. So within 180 days, appointment is required to be done by CNAG, and he will hold office till the conclusion of AGM. Clear? Any doubt? Any doubt? Okay. Any doubt, guys? Any doubt? Also, please provide your feedback, because it's very important for us to understand. Okay, the feedback, what you need additionally, or whether you are understanding or not. Please provide your feedback. It is very important for us. Any doubt till now, or fine? It's fine. Okay. Now, when I say 180 days from the commencement of year, it is financial year. Okay. Okay. This was for the subsequent appointment. For the applicability of the audit committee, kindly refer section 177. Okay. Kindly refer section 177 for the applicability of the audit committee. Now, to which company the audit committee is applicable? I hope it is clear. Okay. Now, coming to the next point for this particular topic. Rule 5. We discussed Rule 5. Okay. Over here. Yeah. We discussed Rule 5. Rotation for classes of company. Now, for which company it is mandatory to be, there is mandate for the rotation. So, section 139.2. Section 139.2 says that, okay, in case of a no listed company or company belonging to such classes, shall appoint or reappoint an individual for 5 consecutive terms, and for firm for 2 terms of 5 consecutive years. So, section 139.2 talks about 2 types of company: listed and prescribed classes. Okay. Listed companies and prescribed companies are or cannot okay, appoint. What they cannot do is cannot appoint or reappoint. Okay. Individual for more than 1 term of 5 consecutive years. Consecutive years. Okay. Now, when I say consecutive, means like you need to focus on 1 term of 5 consecutive years for individual, and for a firm, two terms of, again, 5 consecutive years. Okay. In case of an individual, I cannot appoint for more than 1 term of 5 consecutive years. More than individual. In the case of individual, more than 1 term of 5 consecutive years. For firm, more than 2 terms of 5 consecutive years. Okay. Now, listed company, we all know which are the listed companies. That is there. Fine. When I say prescribed class, what is a prescribed class? So, prescribed class means companies specified in Rule 5 that we are discussing. Okay. Now, when I say prescribed class, that's in that case, it comes into the picture Rule 5, which are the companies which are prescribed over here. These are the prescribed class. And which are these? 3 conditions for that. One, I'm talking about unlisted now. Okay. Unlisted public companies. Unlisted public companies. Now, if there is an unlisted public company, then paid up share capital. Now, paid up share capital greater than, okay, having paid up share capital of 10 crore or more. So, greater than 10 crore. Clear? Okay. Now, next is private companies. Private companies having paid up share capital. Again, paid up share capital greater than 50 crores or more. Okay. Third, it is all companies, not only public, unlisted public, not only private limited, but all companies I'm talking about now. First, I was talking about unlisted public, then I talked about private limited. Now I'm talking about all companies. Okay. So all companies having paid up capital below this limit. Okay, paid up capital below this limit. The reason, because when I say below this limit is, if they have a paid up capital more than this limit, then they are already covered over here. Then why I'm need to see to the third criteria. But if their paid up capital is below these limits, if paid up capital is below these limit and this is end, okay, and have public borrowings from financial institution, banks, or public deposits. So public debt greater than rupees 50 CR. Then that company will also become eligible for rotation. So these are the 3 companies or classes of companies for eligible for rotation provision. Clear? Any doubt till now? Unlisted public company, paid up share capital more than 10 crore. Private company, paid up share capital more than 50 crore. If their share capital is less than 10 crore or 50 crore, less than 10 crore in case of public company, unlisted public. In case of private company, less than 50 crore, but they have a debt more than 50 crore, then they will fall under this provision. Clear? Any doubt? Any doubt, guys? Okay, yeah. Now, good question. Okay. So when I say provision of rotation, okay. So if you see, uh, provision of rotation is applicable to these classes of companies: listed company, okay. Then you can say private limited company, all companies if they have a debt more than that, or unlisted public companies. So if you see the word, it says that okay, uh, in case of listed company or company belonging to such classes, but it does not bifurcate between the government companies or no other than government companies. Also if you see one of the subsection of section 139, which is subsection 5, okay. Subsection 5 is the appointment in case of a government company, okay, or company owned or controlled directly by the central government, okay, will be till the conclusion of the annual general meeting. Will be conclusion of the annual general meeting. So if you see, there is a specific subsection 139.5 which start with notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 1. So 1 is applicable to each and every company, which says that okay, rotation will be there from 1st to 6th. He can be appointed till for consecutive 5 consecutive years. But there is a specific subsection which talks about government company, which is subsection 5. And if you read the wordings, it says that notwithstanding anything contained contrary in subsection 1, means it is overriding effect. And hence, in case of a government company, the appointment only occurs till the AGM, not till the 6th AGM. I hope it is clear. So for the government company, there is a specific subsection which restricts the appointment till the conclusion of AGM. Any doubt? So Jay and Vidula, it is only till AGM, not till 6 AGM. You need to refer to section 139, subsection 5, because it's a special. It starts with it now sending anything contained contrary in subsection 1 of 139. Clear? Any doubt? Okay. No issues. Then rest of the provisions. Now this was first appointment, subsequent appointment. But what about casual vacancy that we haven't discussed as of now? Okay, so now casual vacancy. In case of a casual vacancy, what are the provisions says that in case of a casual vacancy, again there will be bifurcation other than government company, okay, and I'll say government company. In case of a casual vacancy is required to be filled by BOD within 30 days. Okay, by BOD within 30 days. Within 30 days. Okay. but okay, but if such casual vacancy is a result of the resignation, okay, now again I'm saying exception. Exception is if casual vacancy is due to resignation by auditor, okay, resignation by auditor, then such appointment is required to be done within 3 months, okay, within 3 months in a general meeting. Okay, so in case of a casual vacancy, then appointment by appointment in sorry, I think screen was stuck due to some reason. Okay, casual vacancy other than government company by BOD within 30 days. Exception, casual vacancy is due to resignation. And in case of resignation, appointment is required to be done in general meeting. What is the timeline over we are discussing here? Within 3 months. Okay, within 3 months, now he will be holding office till the conclusion of next AGM. Clear? This was for the other than government company. In case of a government company, again, first right goes to the CNAG. So by CNAG within 30 days, and if CNAG fails, then by board of directors, again, next 30 days. Okay. So first, in case of government company by CNAG within 30 days, if 30 days is not able to do, then by board of director in next 30 days. So casual vacancy, section 139 8. And this will be 139.8.2. Clear? Any doubt? Any doubt till now, guys? I hope it is clear. Guys, please provide feedback. Please provide feedback because it's very important for us. It is very important for us to understand what are the things you need further, and where we need to improve, and it will help us to serve you better. Okay. So what we will be doing is, guys, in the next class I will be covering up rest of the amendments. I will be covering up amendments, and I will be covering up Caro and Schedule 3. So please be ready with those things. Please read in detail those areas because it will help you in understanding the Caro 2020 and Schedule 3 amendments, and it will help you, focusing on more on the critical areas. Also, revise professional ethics that just now we completed because it's very important area. It covers 12 to 18 marks in paper. Okay, it's a 12 to 18 marks. It's covers in paper, and it's very important area. So revise this particular professional ethics. Come with your questions in the next lecture, and I will be answering those questions also. So revise, study in detail, read thorough your modules, and it will be very helpful for you guys. These both topics are very important. Okay, guys. So I will be keeping to this lecture till this point. Then we will start forward in the next lecture with the amendments, Caro 2020, Schedule 3. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your time and study well.